In this WrestleTalk news, backstage updates on what happened with Kenny Omega after Dynamite went off the air, more unrecorded payments by Vince McMahon revealed by the Wall Street Journal, and a full review of AEW Dynamite by Tempest. So subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
So yeah, spoiler for the worst kept secret in all of wrestling. Kenny Omega returned on AEW Dynamite last night, teaming up with the Young Bucks to take on La Facción Ingobernable in the Trios World Championship Tournament. More on that in the review in a bit. Now after Dynamite went off the air, Kenny took to the microphone to thank the crowd, but also asked them to give him time to get back to the level that he was at before he went out injured. He said, certainly it's going to take me a while to catch up to these guys. It might be a while before I'm able to challenge for a singles title again, but this very much is a work in progress, and I'm very glad that all of you are joining me on this journey. Omega also told the crowd that he has to have 3, sometimes 4 sessions of physical rehab every single day. And then, in a deft heel move, laid the blame for that at the fans' feet, saying maybe I should hate each and every one of you because I come back out here for you guys. He then called them a little kitty cat that pees and poops all over the house and that he has to clean up after. Is this the true origin of the nickname? Either way, goes to show that he hasn't got out much recently. And neither have I, Terry. Funnily enough, Fightful Select said as much in a recent report about Omega's road to return, saying that Omega consciously avoided the public eye during his time off, only offering updates to select outlets as to his recovery process. The report also said that Omega had briefly returned to the road before, but felt that it was hindering his recuperation and rehabilitation, so went home again, and that his original plan was to be back by Forbidden Door, but that didn't end up working out. So now I guess we have to see whether 3 to 4 sessions of rehab and also wrestling at the same time is sustainable. Hop in the barricade now to talk WWE expenses or personal expenses or WWE expenses, depending on who you ask. Because as you know by now, Vince McMahon retired while under investigation into undisclosed payments he made during his tenure as CEO. Hush money. So last week we spoke about another casual $5 million in payments that the Wall Street Journal had dug up, which Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics suggested were the ones made to the Trump Foundation in 2007 and 9 when Trump was appearing on WWE programming. And a new report from the WSJ confirms this, saying an attorney for WWE said the payments to Mr. Trump should have been booked as business expenses because Mr. McMahon was a principal shareholder and the payments benefited the company. He declined to say why the payments benefited the company. You do the math though, because in 2009, Trump was paid $100,000 as an appearance fee for the Battle of the Billionaire stuff, and WWE attorney said at the time, at the same time, Vince and Linda McMahon made a $1 million donation to the Trump Foundation, which obviously gets taxed a whole lot less than the appearance fee. And Trump also called that a bonus publicly due to the success of the event, which WWE's lawyer had to dispute, lest the whole house of cards come a-crumbling down, I assume. Sadly, this might be the last bit of juicy financial news for a while, because WWE has recently said that the investigation into McMahon is substantially complete. Now, in a continuation of the absolutely mad news from this era, though, the Battle of the Billionaires, which saw Proxy's Umaga and Bobby Lashley square off with the loser's rich boy getting their bonds shaved, had Trump quite concerned. Because despite the booking of the match for Vince McMahon to lose and have his head shaved, according to the Wall Street Journal, Mr. Trump had his associates review the contract to ensure that under no circumstances would Mr. McMahon be allowed to shave his head, even if Mr. Trump's wrestler dropped dead in the ring. Which is funny in hindsight, because Trump's hair has been trying to leave of its own accord for years now. I know, I can say that because I'm a bald man. I have no skin in the game. Maybe I've just got all skin in this particular game. I'm not sure. Hot tag to Tempest. But before we do that, we just need to thank Oh Hi That Danish Mark and Shield Maiden the Zornice for their support on Patreon. Thank you very much.
CM Punk opened the door to House of the Dragon, and he may as well have been a dragon himself, because he was spitting hot fire right out of the gate. He challenged Hangman Page to a rematch that Page didn't respond to, which according to Dave Meltzer, wasn't planned at all. And then he turned his attention to Jon Moxley with a lot of shooty booty comments. He said Mox was the 3rd best member of his group, and that was a theme throughout his career. Oh. He said Eddie Kingston was the 3rd best Eddie he's ever been in the ring with, and the 2nd best Kingston he's ever shared a locker room with. Hi, Kofi. And that he's gonna beat Mox for the title in Chicago, and he won't even be the best John he's done that to. Mox responded as Punk made Snow Angels that Punk was only there because he ran out of money, and that his belt doesn't mean anything until he beats Punk. They cut each other off a lot, but didn't talk over one another, and finished with a pull-apart brawl. This is the sort of energy Dynamite has really been missing as of late, and was a great way to build interest in All Out, or so you'd think, 5 out of 5. Powerhouse Hobbs says Ricky Starks was okay with losing, but he isn't, and for 2 years, Ricky hid behind Hobbs. Love to see Will getting his big break here. Bryan Danielson and Daniel Garcia came out of the gate exchanging holds and strikes, with Bryan dropping Garcia with a palm strike. Garcia disrespected Bryan with little kicks, and Bryan responded with a flurry of offense before Garcia won the first fall with a sickening pile driver and the Dragon Sleeper. I love the touch that Bryce Remsburg immediately started counting Bryan out for the second fall, made this feel like a real sporting contest, which complemented this match very well. Danielson scored a flash pin after Garcia DDT'd him on the floor. To this point, Garcia was being a heel by being disrespectful, but he was out wrestling Bryan, and he immediately stayed on the attack. Bryan and Garcia were both bleeding as they sat opposite one another, and Bryan welcomed shots as he started doing sit-ups in between each one. These two were portrayed as very evenly matched before Bryan finally put him out with the label lock. This was a work of technical wrestling art by two masters who told a perfect story. Jericho attacked Bryan after the match, and Garcia pulled him off as the crowd chanted, "You're a wrestler." Brilliance. 5 out of 5. Tony Nese was walking his happy ass down the ramp before Jon Moxley killed him. Flashback to Mox doing this to the Librarian in 2019. Mox says he's waited too long for this and CM Punk needs to get his ass out there right then. They continued their brawl from the start of the show, and it was good to see a story run throughout a show rather than just a one and done segment. 3 out of 5. Jericho's gonna hear from Garcia next week, and then Ricky Steamboat chopped Angelo Parker. He also said Jericho was exactly the same as when they wrestled in 2009, which is simply not true. The Ass Boys squashed the Varsity Blondes in 10 seconds and then turned on Ass Sr. in favor of Stokely as the Acclaimed made the save and then scissored Daddy Ass. I hated saying that sentence. This match got no reaction, but at least they didn't waste any time. 3 out of 5. Pac says he's looking forward to facing Will Ospreay in their trios match next week, and it isn't news, but this trios division is gonna be so f***ing lit. Jungle Boy says he isn't allowed to wear his Christian Cage is a pussy shirt ever again, which got boos. He said he will chase Christian forever unless Christian agrees to face him at All Out. Christian says they both said some things that they didn't mean and that Jungle Boy is like a son to him and that he can take him to the promised land because he loves him. Christian goes for a hug, but Jungle Boy gives him a double leg and they have another great brawl around ringside. I have to imagine that Moxley and Punk having a match officially scheduled makes the officials want to break up their brawl faster because Jungle Boy stomped Christian on the stairs before being broken up. Another really fun segment that continues to make the show feel like it's being focused on building to the pay-per-view. 4 out of 5. Wardlow and FTR challenged the Jay Lethal crew to a trios match, and then Toni Storm beat Kylan King. Kylan got a decent amount of offense in before Toni hit her hip attack, which is apparently called Sweet Cheeks Music, which is goddamn hilarious because butts. Toni hit the Storm Zero for the win. This was good stuff, but among the less heated things on the show. 3 out of 5. It's then announced that CM Punk and Jon Moxley aren't waiting for All Out and are unifying their titles next week. Shocked Pikachu face. They must have something bigger set for All Out, but for the life of me, I cannot imagine what would feel bigger than this match right now. Maybe they have Tanahashi coming in, but I don't know, this feels like a really odd choice. And then we had the main event featuring the return of a not 100% Kenny Omega. He wrestled in a shirt and a shoulder brace, which is slightly concerning. Omega made his first moves against Dragon Lee, a dream match in its own right, and Omega heavily played up the ring rust in his game. Considering how well Kenny Omega adapted his style with his injuries, I can't believe anything other than this being 100% intentional and a great touch to the match. Los Ingobernables got the heat, and I'd be happy to see any combinations of these 6 dudes in any matches on Dynamite in the next month. Kenny hit very apt Dragon suplexes for this show before Dragon Lee hit another of the best suicide dives in the business into the front row. Kenny got the win with the one-winged angel as Kenny and Dragon Lee thanked each other after the match. Andrade DDT'd Dragon Lee as the show went off the air, and I would have liked that to had a chance to breathe a little bit, but overall this was a great main event capping off a very noteworthy show. 5 out of 5 on the match, and 5 out of 5 on the show as well.
In this WrestleTalk news, Sasha Banks has had her car broken into. WWE have reached out to an AEW talent to return to the company. Are we seeing the end of NXT UK and more?